श्री स्वामिनारायण भगवाननी जय, अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराजनी जय, गुणातीतानंद स्वामी महाराजनी जय, गुरुहरि प्रमुख स्वामी महाराजनी जय, गुरुहरि महंत स्वामी महाराजनी जय. Namaste and Jai Swaminarayan. Welcome to the BAPS Betterliving series presentation titled Developing a Spiritual Attitude. In today's age, individuals are struggling with life's constant ups and downs, like failures, insecurities, material desires, peer pressure, confidence issues, maybe depression, despair, hopelessness, and that list, it goes on. And as a result, he or she has become a breeding ground for negative attitudes. We must understand that negative attitudes and negative emotions are counterproductive, and they take away our experiences of joy and happiness. They also drain away valuable energy from our daily lives, and that is the reason why we need to totally eliminate negative thinking and negative attitudes from our mind, and always start to think more positive and be a bit more optimistic. Through this two-part presentation, we will focus on looking towards tangible techniques and perspectives on how the true joy of life can be experienced each and every day of our lives. So we start by asking the perennial questions. Why does our life involve these ups and downs? And why does our mood shift based on the events that take place in our life? Honestly, we all struggle to maintain consistency and confidence throughout our life. And we sometimes trend to have a feeling of discontent. Now, these are all symptoms of an underlying issue, which is actually the root cause of our discontent or our dissatisfaction, and maybe even the insecurities that we feel. What is that? It is our attitude. Let's try to understand with a very simple example. Now, say that you are operating a sailboat, and the wind, it is never going to change its direction to be in our favor, however much you and I may wish it to be. Instead, we must change the direction of the sails so that we can maneuver that boat in the right direction. In a similar manner, life will continue to throw its challenges, failures, and its ups and downs. They could be of all sorts. But it is how we, as individuals, manage our attitude and the beliefs which will help us determine the ability to maintain positivity, ensuring happiness in our daily life. If our attitude and beliefs are positive, we will be able to imbibe the value of constant joy in whatever situation we may be in any time. Therefore, in order for us to be ever joyful and ever happy, it requires us to recalibrate our beliefs and make a sincere effort to develop what they call a positive attitude. Let's start by thinking of the impact of negative beliefs. Attitudes, we know, are stronger than steel, and within them, negative emotions possess us so much that we actually are not able to break free. In fact, our mind is the matrix of all matter, and that is why Lao Tzu, a philosopher and a poet of ancient China, he has wonderfully said, To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Once again, to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Now, staying still is not about bodily movements. It is more about the stability of the mind. A still mind is undisturbed by things happening around, and yet takes the responsibility for doing its best at any situation. So the mind that is controlled and still experiences a greater level of happiness, and the mind that is uncontrolled and unstill experiences unhappiness. Let's take an example. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when Arjun is supposed to fight for the protection of Dharma, he expresses his weakness, his fickleness, and he tells Sri Krishna that he cannot fight. He tells Sri Krishna in verse 34, chapter number 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna, pramathi balavad drudam, tasyaham nigraham manye, vayoriva sudushkaram. What does he say? O Krishna, the mind is very restless, it is turbulent, it is strong, and it is obstinate. It appears to me, Krishna, that the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. Now, Arjun was a mighty warrior for whom Lord Shiva even said that nobody in the three worlds will ever be able to conquer him. Nobody will be victorious over him. Even then, here we see at the time of his duty, Arjun falls prey to the mind, and he falls into negative thinking. We can see that he feels absolutely dejected and he feels helpless. On the other side, he's been blessed to be invincible. So why does this happen? It is due to his unstill and uncontrolled mind. Actually, Arjun speaks for us all when he describes this nature of the troublesome mind. So then, what are the causes of an unstill, uncontrolled, and a frustrated mind? It is our negative attitude, which actually forms from negative beliefs. For example, breaking up friendships and distrusting others due to petty issues. That is the not forgiving nature. Not receiving acceptance to desired programs or organizations, or not landing your dream job. Within us, I am a failure attitude. Coping with physical illness, I give up attitude. Losing a near and dear family member, why me? An attitude. Judging people around us, not appreciating others, even that is an attitude. Always being the loud voice when hanging out with friends. The need to be the center of attraction, that even is an attitude. Selfish motives to become successful in this competitive world, the cutthroat attitude. There are tons of these, tons. In fact, me and you all possess different negative emotions, feelings, and beliefs. But we don't have a process that helps us defrag them. The dirt within our minds needs to be removed. So, over a period of time, what happens is our actions, they start to resemble our negative thoughts and our negative attitudes. This eventually leads to actions which we perform, which are more selfish, which are more dangerous to our own selves. And that in turn, it eventually removes the joy and the happiness that we dearly seek for in our daily life. Therefore, on the battlefield, Sri Krishna, he strongly advises Arjun, Arjun, You must break yourself free from your negative emotions. So the question, how is it possible to really transcend these negative beliefs, these negative attitudes, and constantly be positive in order to be happy? Simple. Like how we do our weekly laundry. We must do a wash and tumble dry of our attitude. And that requires a 3-step process. The first, emptying our mind and becoming free of negative thoughts. The second, filling our minds with positive thoughts. And the third, enriching our mind with a spiritual attitude. Let's start with identifying our negative thoughts and emptying our mind. Nowadays, the majority of us are so focused on the need to be the center of attention and ensuring that we get the most number of likes on a Facebook post or on an Instagram picture. No doubt, social media is a great way to connect, but at the rate it is going, it literally just consumes us. We have begun to measure our self-worth by how many people love us or follow us. But Hinduism teaches us that we need to have a belief change, that we should actually measure our worth by how many people we love. We need to develop the focus on others' attitude. And it's very true. Our happiness really depends on how many people we love and not on how many people love us. The Yajurveda, our ancient scripture, it is said that mitrasya chakshusha samiksha mahe. What does that mean? O Bhagavan, may we all see each other as friends. Very powerful statement from the Yajurveda. So, it is not how many people see us as a friend, but it is more satisfying and more elevating when we start to see them as friends. And we must manage this by changing our perspective, that we really want to love everyone. Now, when I say love, it's not love in the physical or the worldly sense. It is us being more loving, more affectionate, more embracing, more sympathetic to everybody else, appreciating them for who they are, be it a friend, be it a family member, or maybe even a colleague at work, or even a stranger on the road. Learn to appreciate them. And it is this appreciation that arises from respect. And once we learn to respect, we will begin to love all. And this automatically will then allow people to love us, to follow us, and respect us. We will be loved, we will be followed, and we will be respected. Unfortunately, all well said, we're always being pulled down by these multiple doubts and questions, which are always bugging us, which are always penetrating us, going very deep within our mind. For example, you're looking forward to a very much awaited trip with your family and friends. Now imagine that you have to carry 20 pieces of luggage throughout the whole trip. And you have been assigned to manage, carry, and transfer each and every bag. How will your experience be? Absolutely miserable. Absolutely unenjoyable. You will come back home screaming that was horrible. Similarly, often in life, we come across situations where we feel that the world is mean, the world is rude, or like people are just too jealous, people are just too unfair, they're selfish. But remember, when we start thinking so, it only interferes with our own personal joy and our happiness. And this negative thinking is similar to carrying those 20 pieces of luggage throughout the vacation, the trip that you have much awaited to go along with your family and friends. It just makes our life miserable. And thus, it slows us down, it slows our progress down, and it does not give us any lead to success. In this manner, we must learn to evaluate our thought processes and identify the root cause of our negative beliefs. And this can only happen when we have firstly made a resolution to ourselves, a commitment that we want to focus on improving ourselves. And secondly, by evaluating our daily thoughts and our every action, good or bad, evaluate them. Now this is a process which we call introspection. Bhagavan Sri Swaminarayan has spoken about performing daily introspection many a times in the Vachanamrut. The Vachanamrut is the principal scripture of the Swaminarayan Sampradaya. And specifically in Vachanamrut, Gadada section number 1, number 38, Bhagavan Swaminarayan suggests to us to consider the analogy of opening an account with a merchant. He says that if a person settles the debts regularly on a monthly basis, then it will not be difficult for him to repay at the end the debt that he owes. But if he waits until the end of the year to repay the debt, it will be extremely difficult to settle that account. Likewise, Bhagavan Swaminarayan says, a person should assess one's self on a constant basis, on a daily basis, constantly identifying the negative thoughts, the negative attitudes, the negative actions, and the negative beliefs. Again, he says, with the ultimate aim of discarding negativity totally. Let's now look at filling our minds with positive thoughts. So, once we have decided and identified our negative thoughts and actions, we must look to cut them. And these need to be removed totally from our lives, and they need to be replaced with positive thoughts. So how does this process work? By emptying our minds from negativity and filling it with positivity. Here's a simple example that His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj often gave. Now, you have an empty glass of water which has no water, but it is full of air. So how do you get rid of the air that is in that glass? The only way to get rid of that air is by filling it over with water. Similarly, the only way to get rid of negative emotions and thoughts in our lives is to fill it with positive emotions and positive thoughts. For example, start accepting others' flaws and overlook them. Start thinking of others as we go around on our daily walks. Put ourselves in the shoes of other people and say something which is appropriate, even if they say something that's inappropriate. Help someone in the time of need. Look at the good of others who may even put you in a very, very difficult situation. Instead of being competitive, focus on finding your own passion. Instead of trying to fit in, look to be very content for who we are, because it is God who has made us in this way. We like judging people, so instead of judging others, learn to appreciate them and try to remain more content. So filling our minds with such positive thoughts allows us to channel all our efforts towards fulfilling the passion of life and not worrying about what the result at the end will be. Again, let's remember Sri Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 2, verse number 47, Krishna Bhagavan, he tells Arjun, Karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Arjun, you have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. So do your duty. So we see, in today's world, intense competition is what we are told we will be facing. And we see that performance is everything, right? And we're also told that everything is result orientated. Now, when we have this in our minds, it totally consumes our thinking and our very life. Because then what happens is that we start to put every single effort we can, our total focus on achieving the grade or the admission or the job or the position. But say you don't achieve what you've fully focused on and put all your efforts in. What happens? Yes, misery, dejection, unhappiness, and much more. Now think of what Krishna said to Arjun, that you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Meaning, don't worry about the result. Do what you have to do. So what if we rise beyond the striving for results and instead we focus on finding our passion and putting sincere efforts behind achieving and attaining that passion? It will definitely, without say, bring us joy, happiness and satisfaction, because once Krishna said so, Arjun did so, and eventually he was satisfied. So, as we end today's presentation, let us very, very quickly go through what we have talked about today. Firstly, we talked about the impact of negative beliefs, which really make the mind weak, feeble, they call it fickle, and uncontrollable, which then leads to misery. We then talked about identifying our own negative thoughts and actions and emptying our mind. How? Evaluating through daily introspection and then making a sincere commitment that we want to eradicate the negativity within us. And thirdly, we spoke about filling our minds with positive thoughts through channeling our own efforts sincerely towards fulfilling our goal, our passion, but not worrying about the result. In the next part, we will look at two more very important points in developing a spiritual attitude. The first is enriching our minds with the spiritual attitude. And secondly, how the Guru shows us the path to a spiritual attitude. Jai Swaminarayan.